Hello and welcome to this book review of Camping with Kierkegaard with Dr. Aaron J Simmons. What better place is there to do a book review of Kierkegaard than under the Søren Kierkegaard statue in Denmark? For the rest of this book, we will be walking and talking through the streets of Copenhagen about why I love this book so much and why you might consider reading it as well. The first great thing about Camping with Kierkegaard is that it's an extremely practical and accessible book to read for everyone. You don't have to be a trained philosopher to read it. You don't have to have studied 4 years to do a bachelor's or a master's or PhD to read it. This isn't Hegel, this isn't Nietzsche, this isn't aphorisms, long poetry and esoteric language. Aaron Simmons has written a book which is accessible to all, so that it talks about challenges that each person can be faced with. The ideas, the thoughts, the thinking behind these great thinkers, but condensed and put into a very practical and accessible way. So if you're thinking, well, I love existentialism, but I don't really know Heidegger well. Heidegger's too complex. I was scared of being in time. I was scared of the genealogy of morals. I was scared of reading Kierkegaard's philosophical fragments. I get it. Existentialist thinkers could be the most complicated thinkers to read. However, with Camping with Kierkegaard, you don't have that problem because he's really written this book in a very accessible fashion. Now, the second thing that I really love about Dr. Aaron Simmons' book is that it is written in a lighthearted and conversational tone. He's not writing with deep language, complex language, but rather he's presenting deep thought, important thought, applicable thought in a light-hearted way. And I think that's the beauty of Aaron Simmons' works, that it really draws you in. It draws you into a conversation with Kierkegaard, with Levinas, with Bonhoeffer and all these great thinkers, which is such a fascinating and beautiful thing to have. Because remember, existentialism is known not only as its importance as a theoretical field, but also its practicality. And one of the sad things about existentialist writers is that they write in such a way that it's just not practical for anyone who isn't trained in philosophy to really understand what they're talking about. And as a result, when you're thinking about this movement in which Aaron Simmons is writing, he's making that existentialist book perhaps an existentialist book par excellence, in the way that it's not only beautiful in its theoretical, linguistic motifs, but also conversational, breathtaking, and also bringing you in, the everyday writer, the everyday reader, into a conversation with these great thinkers. And that's another beautiful thing about this book. We're heading across the street to Amalienborg to continue this video. I'll see you there. The third great thing about Camping with Kierkegaard is that it is a very personal book. Dr. Aaron J Simmons includes so many personal anecdotes and stories about his experience interacting with his wife, about his experience fishing as a kid, about his times with his child, which makes the story very personal. The reality is, in existentialism, there is always a very deep fear to identify yourself with what you're writing about. For example, with Kierkegaard writes with his pseudonyms. Dostoevsky writes through the underground man, through Alyosha, through Father Zosima. But then with Aaron Simmons, what he's done very beautiful here is that he's using his own personal anecdotes. He's talking about himself. He's talking about his life. And these are stories which everyone can identify with. I can remember the times where I was fishing with my dad when I was a kid. I can understand perhaps in retrospect how he feels fishing with his dad. I can relate to that, learning how to fish as a child. I could also relate to the first time I fell in love, the first time I had a girlfriend. All of these things are things which are discussed in Aaron's book, and it's just a brilliant way to understand more about existentialism and how they can be applied to everyday decision making and the everyday choices that we all have to embark on. We're currently outside Borsen, the Danish Stock Exchange, or the old Danish Stock Exchange. It's absolutely beautiful, wonderful building, but it's a really good place to talk about Aaron Simmons' next point in his book, which is that you cannot be a workaholic. Yes, it's important to work hard, it's important to try hard, do your best, but at the same time, it's important to not let your work define you. Working is important, but at the same time, your family, your friends, your relations with people are so much more important. Your faith, the decisions you make are so much more important. And as a result, just outside the Danish Stock Exchange, where stock exchange trading is often considered as an extremely lifeless job, sometimes very important that we just come back to earth and say, hey, are we making that work? Are we making what we're doing our idol, or are we actually treasuring the moments we have with our friends, our families even more? And that's another important thing that Aaron Simmons tries to get across in his book. We're next to Little Mermaid at the Citadel to end off our video about Aaron Simmons' book. One thing I love about Camping with Kierkegaard is that it calls you to make a decision. Camping with Kierkegaard is not telling you to be passive. It's not giving you a set of abstract theories to add to your philosophy, some laws of first order logic that you can use to reason. It is a book calling you to live your life to the fullest and calling you to make the most of what you're doing. At the core of Aaron Simmons' book is the phrase, "What is worthy of my finitude?" And the question is to you, what is worthy of your finitude? We only have 80, 90 years if you're lucky on this world to live. We have decisions to make, things to do. The real question is, in those 90 years, what can you do to make the most out of it? And that is the core question which Dr. Aaron Simmons confronts us in his book, Camping with Kierkegaard. So I hope you've enjoyed this short review of Camping with Kierkegaard by Dr. Aaron Simmons. If you want to get a copy of this book for yourself, you can go check it out. Link will be in the description below, and you can go check it out there.